time is kind of the ultimate currency when it comes to adoption. Hello and welcome to my channel, ladies. Welcome back if you're one of my wonderful subscribers, and if you're new, welcome. This is IRL Jax, where I am Jax, and we talk about my real life, which lately is a lot of infertility, and most recently is adoption. This video is a part of my Skill Up series, where you learn everything you need to know to skill up about infertility and adoption. And if you are interested in watching some of the other videos, go ahead and click the link above, and I'll be mentioning a few specific videos throughout this video. This video is going to be about choosing your adoption agency, because choosing an agency is very overwhelming. This is a point in your life where you're very emotionally exposed, you're financially exposed, and usually it's something that most of us don't have a whole lot of exposure to up until the time that we face it. I'm going to guide you through how I chose the agency that we're working with and some good questions to ask your agency when you get down to the final few that you want to interview. There are a few ways you're going to find information about agencies. The first one is online. Internet searches are your friend. The second is your community groups, Facebook groups. I joined one specifically for my city about domestic adoption. So it's literally like Kansas City Domestic Adoption Support Group on Facebook, and it has been so helpful. The third is by emailing or texting with the agency, and the fourth is by calling them and having an interview either over the phone or in person. Obviously, you're going to start with internet searches about everyone, get some advice, narrow the list, and then just have an interview in person over the phone with just a few agencies. What should you be looking for when you are searching for an agency online? There's a few things that I just kept in a spreadsheet to make it easy to reference and remember which agencies I'd looked at and which ones had different policies. I highly recommend you doing the same. Get a list, get a spreadsheet of all the agencies you've looked up and spent time researching and the answers to these most common questions that you should be able to find online. One of them is the age restrictions. That is the age restrictions of you or you and your partner who are wishing to adopt. Some agencies have minimum ages or maximum ages that you should be cognizant of. The next thing is to look at marriage requirements. Some agencies, especially when you're dealing with international adoption, require you to have been married for a certain amount of time. And if you don't know what type of adoption you want to pursue, that's something that you should try to figure out before you start looking for an agency or while you're working through your list of agencies to look at. I'll have another video about choosing international versus domestic or foster to adopt. So if it's up, it'll be linked up above. I personally made my choice of whether or not I wanted domestic, international, or foster to adopt before I started looking for agencies, just to kind of narrow it down a little bit before I started my search. The next thing you should be able to find online is the cost and the cost structure. I found it very illuminating when agencies were transparent enough to post their costs online and not keep them hidden from me. Not only do you need to know the cost of an adoption, you want to know the cost structure. That's where these fees are going, which of them are refundable should an adoption disruption happen, and which of them are lost in the case of a disruption. Also, when they're due. Most agencies have fees that are due in 3 parts. The first part is just the application fee and like the home study fee to get started. That's usually not that much, between $1,000 and $2,000. The next set of fees are going to be your quote unquote go live fees. These are the fees that you need to pay before your profile is shown to expectant families. And then the last set of fees are your placement and match fees. These are the fees for them to have matched you with a mother, to have placed that child, and to have finalized the adoption from their point of view. So usually it's those 3 different times that you're going to owe them money, and it's very important to know when those are, because most people are saving while going through some of the earlier steps. This kind of goes back to knowing what kind of adoption you want, but you need to know what kind of adoptions your agency handles. Just infant domestic adoptions, international adoptions, what countries do they work with? Do they only place, foster age kids that are 2 or up? You need to make sure that you're working with an agency that is going to be able to place a child with you that meets your criteria. The next piece of information you want to ascertain is the wait times. What is the average wait time? And if they service multiple types of adoptions, what are the wait times for each of those types of adoption? Are there different things that affect that wait time, such as gender preferences, ethnicity preferences. Do they have programs for special needs kiddos versus what they call healthy infants or healthy children? What are those wait times and what are the costs to those? Some agencies will allow you to specify gender and race, but there might be fees associated with that. And it's important to know that throughout the whole adoption process, more specificity in what you desire and the kind of child you want to be placed with, you're not only probably going to pay in a monetary fashion, you're also going to pay in time. Time is kind of the ultimate currency when it comes to adoption and this whole adoption process, because wait times go up the more specificity you have. I am putting out a video that goes over the costs of infant adoption in the US, international adoption from a few different countries, and foster to adopt. So once that video goes up, I will post the link right up there. And perhaps the most important thing in vetting and choosing an adoption agency is that they are ethical and licensed. You do not want adoption agencies that pressure expectant mothers to place their child or go along with families, extended families that are pressuring expectant mothers. Good ethical agencies will do their due diligence to make sure that the father is contacted if possible, make sure the expectant mother actually wants this, make sure she knows her other options if she decides to parent, what resources are available in her state and her country. They make sure that she knows at any point in time she has ultimate control over where her child gets placed. I found that a handy way to kind of vet some of the ethical qualifications of a adoption agency was, one, to make sure they're licensed, but two, put them in their search bar, go to the news tab, because if there's any scandal that's broken recently, that'll be one of the first things that pops up in the news tab is articles about them and the scandal. The next place that I highly recommend you look once you get your list narrowed down, go ahead and post kind of your top 2 or 3 on the Facebook group or forum you find and ask other people's opinions. I can't tell you how many times I would search for an adoption agency and it would link me back to a forum that was 5-10 years old. Not super helpful when you're trying to find out what the recent experience has been for adoptive families. The last little tidbit that you should be recording on your list or spreadsheet is whether or not they're a faith-based organization. About 50% of the adoption agencies I looked at were Christian-based, meaning that they were going to require a pastor or religious leader to sign off on a letter of recommendation for both me and my partner before they would allow us to apply to adopt from them. And I don't talk about our religion or religious practices on YouTube on purpose. Very weird, I know, considering I talk about everything else and all of infertility and stuff, but I do like to keep our religious practices private. But suffice to say that we do not have a pastor that can write letters of recommendations for both of us. So half of the agencies I looked at were immediately eliminated because we didn't meet the faith requirements. There was also agencies that got eliminated because they dealt with children exclusively that had special needs, and that's not something we're pursuing right now. One way or another, like, those agencies got eliminated from my list. So I looked up about 18 different agencies, and in the end ended up with 3 that I contacted. The response time of one agency got them nixed from my list. I think it's really important to have a good response time, and if you don't get back to me, then I am not for that agency. It's like I said at the beginning of this video, you're emotionally exposed, you're financially exposed. I do not want to be waiting on an email response that's from 2 weeks ago. No, not okay with me. Another thing that you should be aware of is some agencies work just within a state and some agencies work nationally. So you should consider whether or not you're ready to incur those travel expenses and those last minute travel plans if you are going with a national program where you're going to need to travel a lot. And the same with choosing international adoption. Obviously, that is an extended time you're going to be in a different country. And you need to plan for the cost of that because it's usually not included in the adoption agency's costs. Once you get your list narrowed down to 2 or 3 that you want to reach out to, what do you ask them? What on earth do you ask them? I'm going to just list off a few of the questions that I personally sent to both the agencies I wanted to interact with and get more information about. There are certainly a zillion more questions you can ask, but these are ones that I found helpful in kind of digging deeper into these different agencies.